Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on. Hello. Welcome to Bring Me Life podcast. Super excited to be here. I'm Shannon Shine.
I'm Suleiman.
And in our last episode, we were talking about ritual. And we were discussing like different aspects of rituals and things that we do that help us connect better to spirit.
Yes.
So I've had a lot of people.
So many rituals. It was like we could kept talking and we couldn't cover enough.
I know. So we want to keep diving into that because rituals can be so many things. And I think it's a term, like it was funny. We were talking and then we took a little break and we started watching something and it was like depicted as like this kind of weird gothy ritual or something where they're like naked in a circle and there's like pentagrams. It was really strange. And I was like, This is why rituals get a bad name. We were just talking about this. And I was like, and that's like what some society thinks of when you're like, I'm going to do a ritual with my friends. And it's like, no, dude, you can get around in a circle. And we did one recently and we talked about just like our intentions. And things like that with our friends for like the equinox.
Oh yeah, that was so
was a
beautiful
ritual.
And so nice. It went by so quickly.
And people around us saw us all sitting around a fire and probably thought we were chanting to the universe because at the end of it, we all did kind of like an om together and we did some mudras with the chakras and we were just like living our best life and it was all positive. There was like nothing negative about the fire at all. We weren't sacrificing anything. There was one candle.
There was happy joy.
Yeah.
I screamed once and I was like, oh man, because it was probably 1 a.m.
Screamed as in like was like yeah or something like
yeah.
Not
it
like
was like a very happy scream.
Not a
I
turtling
feel
scream.
like most people who are sensitive to energy would feel maybe it was like a happy scream.
it's almost like a howl,
Right?
like a joyful howl.
Yeah, but it was just so awesome. That ritual made me feel so good.
Yes. So something else that you talk about also that I'd like to get on the podcast that makes you feel good is you have a lot of nighttime rituals. So when I was younger, I started doing this thing that I now know is considered lucid dreaming. And sometimes I would even do the astral travel thing. I didn't know I was astral traveling. I would kind of like, I'd go to sleep. I would set an intention to just be what I now know is lucid. I just wanted to be aware. Like I wanted to be like, I don't like sleep because in my dreams, I was having really bad dreams.
I mean, it's kind of similar being lucid and being aware.
Yeah. So, I didn't know what the word lucid meant. So I started doing this when I was really young and I just wanted to like feel like I was awake in my dream too. I started getting scared of, probably right after my crazy aura experiences. As far back as I can remember, I started doing this because I had bad dreams a lot. I was surrounded by trauma and darkness. So I began making rituals for my bedtime. And for a long time, I had a prayer. I spoke to God. And me and God have we have it out sometimes. Like, I prefer calling him the universe now. Whatever. The entity that puts me here, that made me have a purpose.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I used to, like, pray and say all these things, and then bad things kept happening. So I had to create other rituals. I had to find a faith in a different way. And I was like, when I go to sleep, can you give me a message that's not going to scare me? Like, you don't have to scare me into believing things. Like, let's
Nightmares
show me.
are tough, especially as a kid.
I'm convinced that it's like our subconscious's way of trying to warn us or give us the messages. And it's like we're ingrained to believe that things have to be hard and scary.
In society, too, there's a lot of scary movies. I saw Chucky when I was way too young, and it freaked me out.
What's the purpose of these movies? Why do we want to scare humans? Like, I like scary movies, but not really. I guess I'm just, like, I'm this
Scary
weird
movie.
person that's really dark in some ways, but I love the light and, like, the good positive. I've had a dark experience throughout life that's led me to just want to surround myself with positive things. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I could have been way worse than surrounding myself with dark, scary things. And
True,
be way more pessimistic.
Right, there's this person who talked, and it really has stuck with me. And he was talking about we all have light and darkness within us, but what matters is how we act upon those aspects. What matters is our actions, and that's what makes us who we are. Not that we are.
It's
that
our
we have
choice.
darkness
It becomes
in
to our
life.
free will and stuff too. I think that kind of dives into this topic somebody just brought up in my Facebook group about, I shared something about like finding the belief in who we are, and the person's like, "Oh, this is just positive nihilism." I don't even know if I say that term right. And it talks about how like
it's so interesting. Like there are people out there who are so they. One guy came to my meditation. He was like, "Hey, can we just meditate on people suffering?"
Why?
And that's all he wanted to do. And it was so interesting.
Why do that?
Some kind of balance with the universe.
Focus on people suffering.
I mean, it's we're all different, and that they just maybe they came to the earth to feel suffering.
Yeah, maybe they had a really good life, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows? So let's go back to lucid dreaming for a moment. But yeah, so I want to also talk about nihilism at some point because I just learned about it, and I'm like, what?
Nihilism.
It's like the negative version of what I believe in. Like I'm like everything has a purpose.
Sounds just like pessimism.
One of the travelers. So I talk about travelers sometimes, and it's like people that are just very blunt with their perspectives of things.
Yeah.
Where angels and like earth angels, they like to have proof and permission before they spew their guidance upon you, and travelers are just very blunt, and they're just like, this is what I believe, and I don't, and they also they don't care if you believe them, but they're gonna spout it out anyway because they're kind of like they're information channels like us. They just want to be heard, so I'll usually hear it out and I'll do my own research, but I'm like, yeah, parts of that make sense, but I think you just want to be negative. Anyway, lucid dreaming. I'm going to go back to this topic because I think it's more important. Lucid dreaming.
I love lucid dreaming.
I was doing this thing when I was a kid, and I wanted to just be lucid. I wanted to be aware of my dreams. I used to now I love sleeping. I love getting rest. I love sleeping in until I'm ready to wake up. When I was growing up, I hated it. The least I could sleep, the better, because I wanted to have a real experience. I was like, why do people want to sleep all the time? Like, it's terrible. I'm not actually feeling better after it because I was having nightmares. So I started, and prayer was not helping. The church religion wasn't helping. So I started just like asking the energy I thought that I still think that is like controlling whatever it is we're existing in. I was like, can you send me like more positive understandings of these messages? I get that you're trying to send me messages. I've always thought that dreams were messages. Sometimes completely useless messages, sometimes really, really useful messages.
It's hard to figure out your subconscious mind because there's so much in there.
Yeah, especially like I just feel like my brain is just nonstop.
Lucid dreaming is similar to just a crazy trip that you can't control sometimes, where you kind of get put in this environment that your subconscious mind created. But
lucid dreaming, you're aware that you're dreaming,
right? So your conscious mind
your
conscious mind is roaming around in your subconscious mind, and it's like, what is happening?
So I got on this topic because we were talking about rituals. So I started creating this ritual that I would ask for messages to be positive and to give me signs and like symbols so I knew I was sleeping. So I started creating like a safe dream room and talking about how experiencing how like when I would go to sleep, I would want to meet in myself in, I guess, dream form in this room. And I started practicing that, and I would get excited about going to sleep. So that was part of the ritual, was getting excited to go to sleep and being like, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to be aware that I'm sleeping.
Really tapped into those feelings.
I'm going to feel like I got rest, but I'm going to remember what happened and not be afraid of it, because I want to experience the message I'm supposed to be receiving in I realize now it's the path of least resistance. So sometimes in dreams we want to resist it because we think we have to sleep.
You run away from some of the things that maybe if you would just turn around.
And some people don't remember their dreams at all. So I'm like, maybe their subconscious, they have the power of just turning it off. They have like a superpower. I wish I had. They just turn off at night.
I know a lot of people who smoke and they don't have dreams when they smoke.
Like cannabis or cigarettes?
Cannabis.
Okay, so like marijuana, cannabis, whatever. I think that's kind of like a medicine.
It is.
And for some people, it enhances dreams. And for others, it helps them turn it off.
Yeah.
And it helps them be able to more lucidly control it. So I think it's all different.
Right. There are a lot of... This is a topic I love because there are a lot of things that you can do to get in the habit of remembering your dreams, to get in the habit of becoming lucid in your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's why we were talking about the ritual of it. So
being excited is a big part of it.
Yeah, so being excited, that was my part. Like, I was like, I'm going to get excited.
But not too excited.
Instead of being scared. Yeah, like, you don't want to overthink it because then you're like, I'm not doing it. And then you start, like, putting these, like, weird restrictions on yourself and you think you have to do a certain thing.
Sometimes you start flying in your dream and you're like, oh, yeah. And then it's like...
Yeah, so you got to kind of, like, release your perspective on it, too. Like, you can hear our stories, but your experience might be different. You might not be flying. You might be... Some people flip on a light switch and see if it works and stuff like that.
Oh, that's a great one.
Some people pinch themselves. That one's a weird one. Like, it's like, pinch me. Am I dreaming? I think that's what we get from TV.
I bet if...
It's like the physical feeling.
Yeah. I bet if you tried to pinch yourself in a dream, it would almost feel like putty or clay. It would stretch or something would happen.
In some trippy dreams, I'm sure. But in my dreams, like... So part of the reason dreams are scary for me is sometimes I feel that physical pain when I wake up. So I don't know if that's something I inflict on myself. This is where I also start diving into past lives and dimensions, and I get weird. Lucid dreaming can make me go into weird talks. I think that's why I've waited so long to dive into that. Because I would go into these lucid dream states and, like, I could still feel the pain. I could feel the joy. I could feel, like, sensory.
Well, all reality is electrical signals in our brain.
Yeah,
and those are happening while we're sleeping.
Can you explain why? So is that why I've actually got hurt in dreams and wake up with the bruises? Like, how does that happen in the physical reality? Like, I fall or something down the stairs in the dream. Nothing happens to me that I know of that I'm aware of fully in the physical world. And then I'll be like, oh, I actually have a bruise on my leg.
Well, what if, say, your spiritual body was out of your physical body, and while you were dreaming, it somehow affected your spiritual body so that when you came in, it came in through your heart chakra and into the grid and formed from spiritual energy into physical. Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe. There's so many options there. I've experienced things in dreams that happened to me then on the physical. And I also, I traveled sometimes to different worlds. So when I started asking for more, I guess, visual representations and less danger, it started taking me to, these other worlds I would call zones or, zoning. And I would experience the message I needed to learn through, to me, what felt and sometimes still feels like time jumping or world jumping, and it literally felt like it felt real. Like how many of you have these dreams that feel so real and you're like, okay, that to me that was real. Talk about it in the Bring Me to Life Challenge group. Talk about those dreams. So for me, I would this is how I started. My ritual was to be excited, go to this room, and then from that room, I would sometimes be like, okay, I'm ready to open the door to the dream now. I know I'm dreaming, but what do you want to show me? And I kind of would leave it still to my subconscious or the universe, but then I knew I was aware. And then there's also the astral traveling where sometimes I very specifically knew where I wanted to explore and what I needed to explore, and I took over the dream and lucidly astraled. I have a cool story about my grandma. At some point, she randomly told me one time, she's like, oh, I've astral traveled all the time. I didn't know that was a thing. She's like, sometimes in my dreams, I'm just flying around everywhere and I can see things from above. I'm like, what? You don't realize, what did you do to get there? She's like, this just happens to me. I'm like, you didn't have to do anything? So for some of us, it's just so naturally.
So naturally.
Yeah.
And
tell me about your experience. I've babbled. I'm sorry. I took over that.
Shannon loves to babble, and
that's why I have my own podcast too.
Yeah, she has to have multiple podcasts to get it all out. I'm the kind of person where it takes a lot of work for me to start having lucid dreams, and I'm the kind of person where if I smoke cannabis or then it kind of cuts them off. But there are sometimes I still realize that I am dreaming. I really love lucid dreaming and astral projecting just because of how awesome it is and what you can do while you're in a lucid dream. I mean, you can fly around and it feels real. It's like it's like going into a video game or putting on something but you're in the whole experience. So I've had to research and do a lot of reading on ways to become more lucid. So one way is just asking yourself throughout the day in your physical life, am I dreaming right now? And you can look at your hands, you can look at the clock. I have 2 tattoos that I try to get in the habit of looking at, because if they change, then that's a trigger.
But what's your perspective on life being a dream? Like, you wear a shirt that's from our buddy Billy Mays, who has the Remember You Were Dreaming movement. What was your feeling about the awake dream?
Life being a dream.
Like, our slogan is like, wake up and shine on, like waking up in this dream. So tell me more.
I think that's a great talking point, because I read this book by Deepak Chopra about the Buddha. And the Buddha, when he became enlightened, he was talking about, this is my dream, and because this is my dream, I can control it, I can co-create it, and he was able to do things because he fully realized that. And you hear this all the time. Life is but a dream.
Row, row, row your boat. Life is but a dream. Dude, they were telling us as kids and we just didn't understand.
Life is a movie, a Shakespeare said. It's a grand play. It's all similar in that sense. And maybe one day when we leave this world, we wake up in another life. I don't know.
Reincarnation?
Could be that. Could be... Who knows, There's, like we keep saying, infinite amount of possibilities, because God is omnipotent. That means reality is. So I definitely feel that life is a dream. It's a very stubborn dream. And even Einstein said that reality is an illusion, albeit a stubborn one.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that topic I brought up of it's like nihilism. It's like reality is an illusion. God is an illusion, but God is also real in this energy that it's put us here, but it's given us the ability to make the claim of whether it should have purpose or not. And people, the negative side is like, well, nothing has a purpose then. Like, I don't get to decide when I'm born or when I leave, and anything that happens in between here is just like, it's happening to prove that existence is possible, basically, and stuff like that. And it's like really kind of dark. And I'm over here like,
interesting.
Well, I feel like I did choose. I mean, I made a stubborn decision to the illusion that I wanted to come back and be in the physical form. That's why I believe in reincarnation. Like, I do feel like I had a purpose here, or I don't think that my energy existence would stay here. Like, that's why some people, I guess, do commit like suicide and stuff, is like, they give up on their promise to themselves to return in a way. It's like, we make these soul contracts, we make these commitment as energy to be like, okay, I'm ready to be physical now. So put me back into the physical world. I feel like there's been a couple times I left. So we actually, me and you have an interesting connection in that, where the entity that I feel like I kind of channeled through had some interesting experiences and then dipped out, and I don't really remember some of it, but some of it seems so real because I'm scared of cars and car crashings. And I feel like that's a podcast for a different day too, but like, I know that I've come recently and dipped out and interacted with your soul as it is now, and you came and kind of interacted with my life, and we made a conscious decision to kind of dip out and come back in a different way that was going to work better for us in this time, because it's almost like we rushed it too soon. I feel like I'm being real vague, but it's awareness that I have, and it's become more of a download too as I've experienced it, that we make this decision to come and experience these things, like a school, like you've talked about. And we continue that into our dream time. This is how we got to this from lucid dreaming. Like, you make the conscious decision to be a lucid dreamer, because otherwise you're just going to sleep because it's what we've been programmed to do, to recoup our bodies. But when you become a lucid dreamer, you're taking action in your world. most people that want a lucid dream also want to be able to have a better grasp on their waking reality dream too. When I started realizing I was lucid dreaming, that's when I started realizing I could change my path in this life too. Like, yes, there's some destiny things that make sense, but like the free will aspect comes in, and I'd rather believe that everything has a purpose than nothing at all, or I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like,
based on my perspective of we're all one and we all make up what God is, then just us being here is God's decision, the universe's decision for us to be here, that is us. So in my head, that makes perfect sense to have, that purpose to be here. And, there's people who will always be negative. There are people who always have something to put you down. But there are always many more people who will resonate with what you're saying. And that's going back to your community. Like, you don't have to interact with the people who put you down or are just not open-hearted and open-minded to what you have to say. I think being absolute with your ideas and philosophies is really limiting yourself, because we are infinite. We have infinite potential. So why would you tell yourself it has to be one way?
Right. I mean, I think that we definitely need to have some negative experiences to make us who we are. That's why I think that through my personal life experience, I wouldn't say I allowed myself to lose my parents, but I feel like a part of me consciously came into it knowing. Like, I always get those people too that are like, you believe everything happens for a reason. Well, what about rape? And what about death? And why do babies have cancer? It's like, well, no, I don't think that those are good purposes, but I bet you that experience serves a purpose in whoever's like complaining about its life. Like, if the baby didn't make the conscious decision to have cancer, no, but somebody somewhere had the fear that manifested into reality, and that baby in a different timeline is still existing in energy form. So like, I guess I have a different perspective on like what cancers and terminal diseases and like that kind of stuff happens. And I get all those skeptics that are like, everything happens for a reason. Well, not these terrible things. No, dude, like terrible things happen for a reason too. They teach us more and more about our existence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You learn, sometimes you learn the most from those dark experiences.
Yeah, and I guess I'm also talking about this too, is because like I've had lucid dreams where I'm fully conscious I'm dreaming, but it still gets dark, and then I'm like, whoa, I needed this message very bluntly. Thanks for the reality.
One of the scariest dreams I ever had was I was going through this maze, and it was dark, and it was slimy, and it was scary, and I was running away from this thing that had a big tail and a spike on the end of it. And I guess in my dream it represented the devil, because that was around the time I was going to church every Sunday. And maybe that's, I felt like I was being chased by the devil.
I had more devilish experiences while I was a part of the church than I have since I've left it, which I think is crazy. So the devil attacked me more when I was Christian-y and faithful in that sense, but when I detached from that, it doesn't. Okay.
Well, one thing I'm learning is what you spend the most time thinking about. It doesn't matter what you want or what you don't want, but what you like send the most energy to is what like comes into your life the most. So maybe by them like talking about all that kind of stuff, you have it more in your mind. But I was in this maze running from this thing, and I was so scared, and I got to a dead end. And it trapped me, and it was coming closer and closer, and then there was nowhere I could go, and that's freaking scary. And it got all the way to me. I could see its tail lift up, and then it went down, and it went right to my belly, and as it was like sticking into my belly, I woke up.
So
and I was like panting really hard. I was super
like
sweaty.
The devil went into you?
I felt like the devil stabbed me with its spiky tail to kill me in that nightmare. And that was one of the scariest nightmares I've had.
Were you lucid? It was just a nightmare.
It was I still remember it very vividly.
So it was one of those dreams that felt real.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew you were dreaming. So that's another form of, like, I don't know if there's a term for that other than lucid and being aware, because, like, you can be lucid and know you're in a dream, but still not be able to control it. So if you want to be lucidly aware and control your dreams, then you want to set a ritual into perspective to protect yourself, because you're starting to open yourself up to being able to do dream magic or dream practice, spiritual connection. And you're connecting not only with the ultimate source, but also opening yourself up as a channel when you're dreaming without setting that ritual up ahead to protect yourself. Things can attach to you, whether they're energetic travelers, demons, for lack of a better term, aliens, or like entities that are flowing through our dimension, kind of looking for research in a way.
Yeah.
I think that's, so I don't feel like I've been abducted. Like, I don't think I've left this planet in this body. Like, some people are like, my whole body was taken.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been abducted in that way. I haven't been in the flying saucer physically.
But there were some episodes on Star Trek where, like, Riker,
right? So he's been physically taken. So, but mentally,
so weird.
Mentally, I've been like mentally alien raped, in a way that, like, they take over my dreams for research, and that makes me feel crazy, guys. So, like, first of all, you don't have to tell me I'm crazy. I know.
Communicated with a gray alien while I was living here.
Well, the people talk about the clicks too, and like how they hear the clicking.
That was what I heard.
I've heard the clicking too, but like, so I don't think, like, there was one time I felt like I was kind of floating, like levitating, but that time I wasn't actually scared. That time I felt like they were just like, I wonder, it was almost like a baby alien. Like, I wonder if I can help lift her up and she'll freak out, or like, what's she going to do? And I was just like, I can't move my body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. And I still wonder, like, was I awake? Was I not? It was real to me. But nobody was there to witness it. So that's where spirituality and faith are, like, such an interesting topic, because you have to take people's words for it. You can think they're crazy, or you can believe them. You can accept that that's their truth, or you can be crazy and worship them.
That's why it's so great to go out and explore life for yourself and have your own experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have things you can't explain, you don't always have to find a purpose for them. But I mean, that's where I've found my deeper purpose in life, is like connecting the dots.
I just thought of something funny, how, you know, the people who are talking about there's no purpose to life,
maybe they're scared.
Sorry. Maybe. I was just thinking it's funny because maybe their purpose is to be like the contrast.
Yeah, the question that I think that's where I come in with travelers. So travelers, like,
I was like, their view on having no purpose has a purpose,
right,
for this world.
Yeah, so and sometimes they're just like NPCs. They're like the non-player characters that are just there to hold space and be like, I don't have a purpose. I'm just here to keep cheering you on so you keep playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay. That's that NPC traveler character. Yes. But then there's the travelers that are like, I talk to people and I'm like, that person is so wise. Like, they've traveled through some sort of time dimension. Not like they got in a time machine and came back to just me, but like they've been channeled some message and they don't even always realize it. Like, sometimes I talk about people with like the name Mike and Joe and stuff like that. Not every person named Mike is an angel. Not every person named Joe is an angel. Sometimes people's names are something completely not related and they can be angelic. So you
ever meet somebody who didn't feel like their name?
Oh, definitely. I feel like that's why we go by our spiritual names.
Yeah.
Like, some of your family still calls you Christopher, and I'm just like, you're not a Christopher. I've dealt in Chris. When people call you Chris, I shudder. I've dealt with some interesting Chris's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if there's a Chris. I'm not offending you. I'm not like,
right. It's
I love all the
great
names.
name. My whole life I've loved being able to express myself in a unique way. Even though I had a lot of trauma, so I didn't express it vocally, I still did it with my clothes and everything else. And so my whole life I tried to build a nickname beyond Chris or Christopher, and it never stuck. But when I met those friends and they started saying Silamon, it just felt really good.
How does it feel when I say CeeLo instead of Silamon? Because I say
like
CeeLo all the time. Like, I will yell your name and it's just
right.
CeeLo, not
I
Silamon.
like CeeLo because that's how it started.
Okay.
In my last name, Clausen, CLO, it makes sense. CeeLo.
I also like that your name's Clausen and you love Christmas. So we're not like super religious-y at all here. We're spiritual.
I know. Guess who Santa Claus's son was? My ancestors.
Somebody, yeah, Claus, son. You love Christmas. So we like to briefly touch on past lives. We haven't dove into that topic yet. And I still feel like you have some connection to like that entity that created the Saint Nicholas, the Santa Claus,
Kris Kringle.
Kris Kringle. You love giving gifts to people, not even like material gifts. Like you just like bringing joy, like silliness and like happiness and like.
Dude, I do love Christmas. I wouldn't say I love the commercialization of it. I do love presents. Like
I love the lights.
I love. Even if somebody just wrote me a note and wrapped it up, I'd be pretty excited.
I've done that, and you get hype.
It makes me so happy because of all the lights and the smells and most people's vibe. Like, I guess it would depend on where you are, because if you're in Walmart during Christmas time, it's probably
miserable.
not like.
I don't like retail.
It's probably
Christmas.
not a good place to be during that time.
I liked when I had my shop at Christmas time because I could see that the presents were bringing the material people joy, and they were handmade, like artistic things, and it was cool. I felt like I was like working with the elves. I was Mrs. Claus, like working with all the artsy elves that are human now, and like they were making gifts, and then I had my little art gallery, and it was a cute little process.
Awesome, yeah.
I love Christmas time, and as much as I'm not super religious, I think the idea of gift giving and celebrating life through the cold months, it gives us joy.
Well, the whole.
So that's a ritual.
Tree, the whole Yule log, it is a ritual.
So we're still on topic, guys. Don't you worry.
Don't you worry.
Ritual.
There's so many rituals connected to Christmas.
Because ritual is not a bad word.
There's so many rituals connected. I mean, December 1st, we usually eat some kind of chicken in honor of Papa Clausen.
Yeah, because he loved
watching
Rudolph.
Every December 1st, we watch Rudolph in his honor.
Rudolph is a good story, too. Like, it's a very Christmas story, but it's
story.
like, it teaches you how it's okay to be different and to shine your light. Dude, I love Rudolph.
Freaking classic.
Yeah. So
that's a ritual that we have.
Exactly.
We
have lots of rituals. I really like the lights part of Christmas. I'm like, everybody wants to put pretty lights in their house, and I feel like it channels something to them. Like they get this deeper channel to like angels, and then people are more willing to express their love for angels and accept miracles. I love when people are like, it's the season of miracles. I'm like, dude, my life is the season of miracles, but I'm glad that you're willing to accept it because that enhances our ability as a collective to create miracles.
People are more focused on miracles. It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, it's just wow. I've had a lot of Christmas miracles. Actually, they're really magical.
Oh, definitely me too. Can I tell you about one?
I mean, if you want, I feel like we could do a whole episode on just Christmas.
Yeah,
but you can tell me something now.
One day when I was traveling during the lost season, when I made it to Mount Shasta near the end of the trip, we made it to Mount Shasta when it was a snowstorm. There's 4 feet of snow that got dropped as we were getting there. It was below zero. We were in a van, so we wrapped up in blankets.
How many people were in this van? 4. Okay, so you'll hear CeeLo talk about van stories, and sometimes there's 4 people, sometimes there's 13 people, sometimes there's a dog, sometimes the dog's like. I'm like, how many people at this point are in the van? So there's 4.
So there were, I would say, in San Francisco, there were about 9 of us.
Okay.
That were trying to get to Mount Shasta, but somehow half of the group got distracted in San Francisco.
Because it's Christmas.
And didn't end up wanting to go with. So the 4 of us were like, we're going to make it. So we made it, and it's below zero, and we're like sleeping in the van for a few days. And Christmas Eve comes around. I wake up in the morning. I go outside to go to the bathroom. I slip on ice. I hit my head on the van. That's how I start Christmas Eve. I'm freaking hungry. The only thing we've had was dried couscous and the shittiest bag of popcorn that someone found, and we were just nibbling on it. It made us so sick. I had to throw up.
I can't do popcorn. I love it, but I can't do it.
That was, yeah, that kind of like killed popcorn for me. But so we didn't have anywhere to go, and I have to poop because I got my stomach hurts. I got diarrhea. I got to throw up, and we don't have any bathroom because we're in the van. So somehow we end up miraculously meeting this drum maker who makes this ceramic drums and sells them.
I like how your random travelers are always like a miracle that's like leading you in some crazy direction.
Yeah.
So you have some nice travelers. So this guy's a drum maker.
He's a drum maker, and he lets us stay at his shop. And when we get there, there's this other lady there that he's letting basically like help and do things. And she's like full on witch mode. Got a huge like witch hat and is like talking to us about how we can heal our bellies or something. And so that night we just sleep on his floor. He goes to his house and we just stay at his shop. And I wake up on Christmas Day and I look out his front window, and the same exact width of the shop, it led directly to a giant statue of Jesus.
A path? What do you mean the same as length of the shop? What was the
so there was a road. It was a cemetery.
Oh, right next to this random shop.
There's a cemetery on the opposite side of the street of the shop.
Okay.
And the road was like paved that night for some random reason that night.
In the snow, they paved it? You mean they cleared it?
They cleared the snow off of the road into the cemetery. And that road was the exact width of the shop.
So it's like this big lit up path to...
Basically, yeah, this big lit up path. And straight ahead of us is a giant Jesus statue. And I see my friend Nick O'Ryan come out, and I have a flute in my hand. I've had this flute for a while. And I start playing this flute. There's wind. It's blowing little tiny crystals of snow in the air, and they're twinkling in the light in front of this giant Jesus statue on Christmas Day. And it literally is a video game. It literally is a video game. The graphics, the detail, everything was so pristine. And Nick goes and meditates while I play the flute for him. And then I go, and as I'm walking, it just becomes more and more like a video game. More and more serene, more and more like
So this is in your
lucid.
real life reality, basically your life dream.
Yeah.
And this is really happening.
Yeah,
so
and I felt like...
This is Christmas. You just were led to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I played the flute. I played the flute for this statue as a ritual, basically.
And you're sober.
And I'm sober, completely sober. A little messed up from the diarrhea and the throwing up.
Huh.
But feeling a lot better because Christmas Eve, I got a lot of it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a wild story. I'd be pretty baffled if I was led to Jesus on Christmas too.
It was just so funny.
Jesus is a powerful ascended master.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't like being worshipped in the way that he is, but who knows? Maybe he does in a very humble way. He's like, yeah, I made a big impact. I just wish people were more loving about it. Some people are really loving. There's some churchy people I actually love. I have a connection with a churchy person. She's actually a pastor, and she is so open-minded and so beautiful, and she likes to show up on some of my posts too. She popped in onto the Nil Hislam post. Karen, yeah. We do sound healings at their church.
Yeah.
And we do fall in like equinox events there sometimes.
She's the pastor of the Episcopal church in Frostburg. And she's so amazing because she's not the kind of person who sends hate to you.
No, she wants you to know that God has your back. Like she's never specifically said like he's not some old man staring down at you, judging you. That's just like me that says that. But like she makes me feel like the church believes that too, and like makes me feel welcome there, and not like they think I'm
very
crazy.
Welcoming. I know they have some gay couples that even go to the church.
Yeah, that's how we found the church, actually, was through them.
She speaks Pride every year.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, there was a lot of churches that were asked to show up and represent that, we're all God's children, and they wouldn't do it. But this pastor showed up, and she has such powerful speeches. Yeah. I hope pastor is the word, because it could be reverend. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be reverend.
Reverend, yeah. Those terminologies sometimes elude me, but
yeah.
I honor and respect
for being so brave in a crazy kind of world.
Yeah, I felt so much respect there, so much understanding too, because I also post things about Buddha and Lakshmi and Ganesha, and she's not afraid to like it and understand that I don't just worship the Almighty God. I think that these other entities,
many paths.
Yeah, I think there's many entities that have taught many lessons. No one path is the true answer. Kind of goes into a topic that you said you want to talk about. That's like, we know nothing. Mm-hmm. I think that should be our next adventure.
Well, it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of true, because we are trying to understand things from our human brains, our limited but unlimited human brains.
Yeah.
As you start to learn things, you will continue to evolve and grow, and things that you learned a long time ago will fall away, and you'll begin to understand that your truths will change.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that in a new podcast. But real quick, since this episode was actually, we were aiming towards lucid dreaming. Mm-hmm. Do you have any quick tips for people that are like, I really do want to try this lucid dreaming thing? How do they protect themselves? How do you dive into it? Mine was kind of natural. Yeah. So I want to hear, you said you have to work on it, and I've seen you read books and things. Like, what's your tips of advice from Silaman for lucid dreaming?
For lucid dreaming, I had mentioned look at the clock. If you can remember to look at the clock. So even before you can look at something and realize, you got to understand to look for that. So you got to get in the habit of, in your daily life, looking at the clock or flipping a light switch. Doing things in your daily life will eventually get it into your subconscious mind, so that you'll get into the habit of, while you're dreaming, doing the same things you do in waking life. And so if you look at the clock while you're dreaming, it's going to usually be kind of messed up and weird.
Because we're trained to think that a clock is a certain way and it tells time a certain time. And we actually know that time doesn't work like it does in real time and space. Right. Because it's delayed and we're just perceiving it that way. Again, we know nothing.
Right. But in the dream world, I don't believe time exists.
It doesn't, because that's why I'll look at the clock and I think sometimes I look at the clock in my dream and I'm like, it was this time, and then I'll wake up and I'll actually look at the clock and I'm like, did the time I even looked at the clock in my dream exist? Like, it didn't even correlate or make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
tips from Silaman.
Try and just ask yourself, am I dreaming? And pick a trigger to start making it into a habit in your daily life, so that trigger will transmit into your dreams. So when you act upon that and you realize you're dreaming, then you are lucid, and you can begin, if you would like to, you can go into an astral projection. You can just go and have fun. Like one time, my friend and I went to a roller coaster made out of candy.
In your dream.
And pizza.
But then didn't you meet that friend and they had a very similar dream?
We woke up and we talked about the same exact dream. We both had that dream together.
So this one time when I was a kid, I was staying at my friend Kayla's house, and me, her, and my friend Rachel, we were all asleep. And at the same exact moment, we weren't listening to anything. We weren't watching anything. It was silent in a room. We were all asleep. We all three at the same time woke up, and they don't remember this, but I do. But they kind of remember it just differently. We all rose our hand in the air and beeped. We were like, beep. We were like, why are we doing this? And I looked around and I said, do you guys realize what they're doing? They're like, what just happened? It was it didn't make sense to them. They realized that we were doing it. We all woke up in the middle of the night and just had our hand straight up in the air. And I don't know if I brought it up to them now, if they'd even remember it at all. But I remember very distinctly in that moment being like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
And like we talked about it then, and then it kind of became weird, so it just like we've shoved it under the rug.
You think it was how some people sleepwalk? You had like where you in your dream it was transmitting into your physical world, and then you came back while in that.
Maybe. I also think that like, so me and my friends, we also had these visions in a way, like we were collectively creating a reality that wasn't also real. Like I thought that we were the only girls that did this. I thought we were the only like weird teenage girls, but it realized that like lots of girls and kids do this. They like created a story together. And I swear that like our stories now could be a sitcom. Like one day I'll be a millionaire. Like it's like, you know how like Always Sunny in Philadelphia is hilarious. This would have been like us, but as teenagers writing it. And just imagining now is like a sitcom. But we were having these dreams and stuff, and they would connect together. And she'd be like, one of them would start telling me a dream, and then they would stop. And then I would be like, oh, that's where yours stopped. Well, mine started here. And it would like feed into that dream. And I used to just think we all had really creative imaginations, and maybe we did. But for him to connect so fluidly, we had to have been on some collective like download for that.
You know how computers have graphic cards, and in order for certain games to play, you have to have a certain kind of graphic card.
Right. So we were kind of playing a game together, but it wasn't a real game. It wasn't a real story. But we were creating it.
When you're younger and your imagination has been demolished, in a way, I kind of feel that could be a graphics card.
Well, yeah, because and then you know how sometimes like you remove a game from a system and it goes beep. Maybe that's what was happening. It was like
you're coming out beep.
Yeah, it was like we just gave you guys this download for this next like storyline you guys are going to experience in your life as teenagers, and this also reality that you've created. And then we all just woke up at the same time and had the same download in the same moment. And like I computed it like that, and they computed it like I was just sleeping, and that was really weird. I don't want to think about it. And I'm like, you don't think you're a game? Okay, that's fine.
Do you remember if you all fell asleep at the same time?
Kind of. We all drifted off together. Yeah, like we would all just like go to bed, and she would turn all the lights off.
I think that's part of what happened with my friend and I.
It was like a ritual. We like went to bed together.
We basically faded away into our sleep at the same time. Because when we were young, what we would do, if one of us was awake and the other two were drifting off, the other person would be like, rah, and scare everybody back to waking up.
You think they were trying to scare me?
No. What I'm saying is we would do that until we all would just pass out at the same time. I think that kind of helped us have the ability to share a dream.
There's an episode of SpongeBob where he shares a dream with all his friends. It's probably like one of my only favorite episodes of SpongeBob because he kind of got on my nerves. But in this one episode, God, that's probably why he got on my nerves.
Imagination.
He fell asleep and he didn't like his dream, so he goes to like Patrick's dream, starts messing up Patrick's dream, and he gets. I don't know if he gets bored there or if like Patrick kicks him out. Anyway, he goes to like Sandy's dream and Squidward and Mr. Crab. He goes to all of them. I think he even goes to Plankton, and it's like destructive as all get out. Anyway, he wakes up and all of them are surrounding him at his house, and they're like, "You just took over my dreams." And he was like, "I thought I was just dreaming." And they were all like, "No, dude, you just walked into my dreams." Well, so I do that sometimes. People call me a dream walker. They're like, so when I have something that I want to tell people and I for some reason can't get out in the physical, I must like my subconscious must freak out, and it sends my spirit to tell them in the dreams. So like going back to like my miscarriage situation, I had a spiritual teacher. She's actually like who brought us together. It was like one of the teachers we've talked about a couple of times. And I wanted to reach out to her, but I hadn't reached out to her in a couple of months. And sometimes I get weird when I get distant, and I love people so much. I don't want to make them think that I'm just reaching out to them because I need them. But I mean, it's more than that. Sometimes it's just life happens, you know, and that's why I like relationships that you can like appear and have human connection. Anyway, so in this dream, I knew things were starting to go down with my body, and I felt really weird. And before I'd actually like taken tests or anything to prove anything, I had visited her in a dream. And in my dream, where I was here in my bed, I visited her. But it was a little bit of a different message. Like, I saw it my way. I went to her house in the dream, and like we had a talk. In her dream, so I haven't talked to her in months. Hadn't talked to her, seen her. We haven't connected. We live states apart. Probably maybe even a year or more since we'd connected. In the exact moment that in my dream I reached out to her, didn't do it on purpose. It's just where my subconscious took me. The next day I wake up to a message from her, and she's like, you dream walked, because she's a very spiritual person. Mm-hmm. She's like, you were in my dream. And I was like, you saw that dream too? But then she explained it, and it was a little bit different. To her, I like appeared at her back door, and I was knocking, and I was in a panic. And to her, I expressed what my fears were, in a different perspective than what I really thought my fears were. But she was able to connect. And then I had another friend that same week that I had visited in my dream, in my bed at home, subconsciously, like not meaning to. I guess I wasn't reaching out to people. I didn't want people to know yet because I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to talk about it out loud, but I was visiting people in their dreams. Mm-hmm. And this other friend messages me, and she was like, I know you're going through a really hard time. We haven't got to talk in like weeks or days, but I can feel it. You came to me in my dreams and told me what's going on, and I'm here when you're ready to talk about it. And it blew my mind. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, we can really connect to people through dream time.
Yeah, it's probably a lot easier to express what you're going through when you don't have to deal with all the emotions of being this physical human.
It's true. And I think it's important to like check in on people too. So like if people are appearing in your dream and you don't feel like weird about it, sometimes people appear in my dream and I'm like, I can't talk to them about that. That was just weird. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes I know that they're appearing in my dream because they don't know how to reach out. Yeah. So I'll take that as a sign and I'll send them a message and just be like, hey, how are you? Mm-hmm. And then usually it like unfolds and I'm like, wow, that really was in my dream. Yeah. But it's holding space. So like if you have a friend or a family member that keeps reappearing in your dream, maybe not. Sometimes if you just like unload what happened in your dream to them without holding space for them first, it can be overwhelming and freak them out. Because I have some friends that just like dream dump on me.
You said like, sometimes you need a warning.
I like warnings. So I'm like, how are you? Yeah.
How are you? I went through a really intense experience. Yeah. Wait for them to respond.
Yeah, and be like, I feel like I'm supposed to connect with you. Do you have anything you want to talk about? And if they don't, then be like, well, this was prompted because of this dream. And then maybe they need like, they're like, oh, she knows I visited her in a dream. Maybe she was sent to help me or something. But if they just unloaded on me like, oh, you were in my dream and this person was doing this, and this, and it's too much for my brain all at once, I'm like, oh man, could we have eased into that? So I guess it's just like perspective, feel out situations, but like just hold space. Like I have one friend. Yeah, I have one friend, when I hear a whippoorwill, I check in on him because I connected him to whippoorwills for some reason. Yeah. And I did that to him like 3 times and it kind of freaked him out. So now I just don't. Yeah, so I just don't mention it. But the first couple times that it happened, I messaged him and he was like, how'd you know I was just like hating life right now? And I was like, I've been hearing whippoorwills, dude. And that's like one of your spirit animals, I guess. I don't know. And spirit animals. So that was one of my triggers. So one of my triggers is spirit animals in my in my dreams. That's how I like connect. So people are like, how do I connect with my spirit animal? Tell them to show you in your dreams and be willing to accept it and don't attach yourself to it. Like don't be upset with yourself for not seeing an animal. But when you start seeing a reoccurring animal, that's probably one of your dream animals or your spirit animal. So like I have a phoenix. When
it's a lot easier for them to come to you in a dream.
Yeah, a phoenix. I'm not going to see a phoenix in life. I can hear my phoenix sometimes in this physical reality because I'm not expecting to see it. I'm just like, oh, I hear her. Okay. But in my dream, she'll fly over like a hawk, but she's got different colors. He, she, it. It doesn't really have a gender. It's just my phoenix. Yes. Now my phoenix does, when I want it to come into the physical world, I've realized it comes as like a peacock. Yeah, it comes as a peacock. It took me a long time to realize that. I kept begging the universe, like, please just show me my spirit animals, like. And then I was like, why do I have a phoenix? Like, that's not fair. I can't see it in the physical. Mm-hmm. And then I started realizing, oh, my phoenix is a peacock. It's just, that's how humans have to perceive it. Because if the peacock or if the phoenix was real, then they'd have to believe in all the mystical creatures, which I think in some realities there probably are unicorns. We're just not willing to care.
Probably, yeah. I physically have seen dragons.
Right. Definitely. That's another podcast. Okay, we're almost at an hour. Why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back?
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, you guys. Thanks for listening. We love you. We've babbled for a while about lucid dreams, different names, Christmas rituals, all different stuff. Leave us a comment in the Bring Me to Life challenge. Talk about those things. Create a community. Talk to each other. Don't be scared. Safe space, but also respect boundaries. All of those fun things.
Yes, I am Suleiman, and I'm so happy that you were able to join us today.
Where can people find you, Suleiman? You probably have stuff about astral travel on your YouTube, right?
I have some astral projection meditations. If you go to Suleiman.com, they should be at the top playlist on my YouTube page.
Suleiman.com goes right to see those YouTube, which is where all the content is that you want to find, really. Yep.
If anybody needs like a custom meditation or music, you just want to reach out, you can send me an email, Suleiman Official. Suleiman, that's SELOMON, SELOMON, official @gmail.com.
Check it out. I usually promote my pages too, but I think that he's got way more astral lucid dreaming stuff. So go check out.
I also have, we together and also myself have meditation CDs at shantasticshine.com, right?
Yeah,
shineshopping.online.
You can get to it from any. So my website. Okay, he wants me to shout out my website. You can get to my website whatever way is easiest for you. You can actually go to shinandshine.com, shantasticshine.com. But if you want to go directly to the marketplace, it's shineshopping.online, and you can buy his CDs there. So if you want to astral travel, you want to learn about chakras, we have chakra CDs. He has an intro to meditation CD. And we have, you have your True Abundance that I do have a track on. So we have 4 CDs. We've worked really hard on them.
Yeah.
So that you can find those on any way through my website. Use the search bar. You can search
shineshopping.online.
Yeah. Suleiman.com. I love that we can cross promote each other. This is great. But you can join us in discussion at Bring Me to Life Challenge on Facebook and check out bringmetolife.com. I'm Shin and Shine. I love you guys. I hope you stay awake. Shine on always.
This is Suleiman wishing you a great day. Namaste.
Bye.
For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, that's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.